Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Aaron Ashmore about Season 3 of Locke and Key, streaming worldwide now on Netflix. Welcome back to the show, man. It's good to see you again.
Great to be back. Long time no see.
It was like last year, but it felt like the pandemic made time just stand still. Like it felt like it was like 5 years ago.
It might as well have been 5 years ago. Enough has happened in between, yeah.
Last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about the genre-bending component of Locke and Key. I still think that's one of my favorite things. This season, the genre-bending aspect of it, I feel like just goes to new levels with the time travel and everything. It never probably ceases to amaze you what happens season after season, right? Reading the scripts.
Well, yeah, and on a show like this or genre shows, I mean, that you have to amp it up. It has to be amped up every year. I think that's the sort of MO, because I think that's a lot of the time what people tune in for is to see crazy stuff and to see interesting stuff. And if you give them what you gave them last year, you know, that's not what people want. People want everything amped up a little bit. So yes, from season to season, you know, season one, you have to set up the story. It has to be grounded enough to make sense. And then from there, you can really start with the storytelling and, you know, getting crazy. And I think that's really what happened between season 2 and season 3. Things just really get amped up.
Third season, the final season, I think everything just wraps up so unbelievable, and I can't wait for the world to see it because it's streaming now on Netflix. What is your mindset as an actor knowing that this is going to be the last kind of season of Locke and Key? Is it just it's bittersweet, obviously, but like what's that mindset for you?
Well, I always feel really fortunate at the end of a show to look back and be like, wow, look at all these friends that I made. Look at all this great TV that I got to be a part of. So I usually just feel grateful. Yeah, of course, there's a little bit of bittersweet, but when you start something, you know it's going to end. These things always come to an end. So I usually just feel very grateful for the amount of time that we got to do it and just look back with it on fondness, because getting too upset or worked up about something ending is like, you know, that's just the way it is. Time to move on to the next one. But
specifically with your character gets thrown in a lot of situations, and he's all of a sudden involved with Keyhouse and all these keys, and it's like, what's going on? What's that like, kind of seeing that arc specifically of your character every season and the growth specifically with your character?
Well, I really liked the arc. I mean, I think that Duncan is a very nice guy, very cool guy, and he got put through the ringer. But I think at the end of the day, you know, he gets to be happy. He gets to settle down with his new husband and have a life and feel part of this family, which I think that he didn't for a long time. He was so, you know, all the craziness that happened to him over when he was a kid and all this stuff, like it sort of really wrecked him. And now by the end of the third season, he's married, he's happy, life is good, everybody's safe-ish. And, you know, life goes on. So, you know, I hope I'm not spoiling too much. I mean, I assume people think that the show will wrap up in a fairly happy tone, but there's a lot to happen before we get there. But
spoiler alert. No.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah. But right, it's gonna be streaming anytime now. So you know,
it's already out. Yes. I always have to, especially with this interview, you know, you put in the description, spoiler alert, like right before all that.
Very, very important. People get pissed if they don't if you don't put that in there.
So
right?
This is like a past spoiler from previous seasons. I mean, characters have come and gone in Locke and Key, and it's a big cast. What's it like being? Because like I feel like this ensemble cast is just unbelievable in terms of there's so many different dynamic characters, Aaron. Like you've worked on things in the past with an ensemble cast, but what was it like working on this ensemble cast with Locke and Key?
Well, it was great. I really think that they did an amazing job in casting all these characters. And I also think that the writing, you know, they really found out what worked, the dynamics between characters and what worked and what the strengths of the actors, and then wrote to those things. And so I think that's where you get a very dynamic, very successful interactions with characters, is because the writers are really paying attention to who these people are and what dynamics are working and focusing on those. And so I think that is, you know, obviously the casting, they found some great people to play these roles, and then they really leaned into everybody's strengths. And that's what you get.
Besides Duncan, does Aaron Ashmore have a favorite Locke and Key character?
You know what I loved, and I loved it on the page when I read it the first season. I love the character of Scott. I loved it in the graphic novel too. If I was younger, that's the character that I would have been really gunning for, because I think he was just like super charming and fun and I really liked that character on the page. I thought, and I think that Patrice, who played him, did an awesome job of bringing it to life. But I think I'd go for Scott because he's a little bit outside of the family, but he's still sort of, I don't know. I thought he was a great character.
Would you like to know who my favorite character in Locke and Key is?
Do tell. Yes.
Doug Brazel.
Doug Brazel?
Member of the Savini squad is Doug Brazel.
He would be second up there. He would be close up to the top for me too.
Shout out to Jesse Camacho. No, just like
big up Jesse Camacho.
Aaron Ashmore's second favorite Locke and Key.
Second favorite.
The Netflix effect is massive, man. You know, it like drops in all these countries instantly around the world. Which one more blows your mind more? Is it the global component of it or the quick component of it? That like people see it so quick, or is it just in general? Wow, so many countries get to watch season 3 of Locke and Key.
Well, I mean, it's all amazing. You know, things have changed very drastically from even like 10 years ago. The access to it and the global access is pretty crazy. Like, and it's really interesting. Like certain shows obviously are more popular in certain places. I got so many messages from like South American countries, and even Mexico and that, like a lot of Latin speaking countries, like people be sending me messages and I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know. But you know, like there's a lot, which is really cool to know that people are watching those shows and really responding to them. And it's like, oh wow. Like, you know, there truly is this really big global aspect to
across all these time zones too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think it's pretty cool. And as an actor, it's just like, that's very cool to know that people know your face and know your character all around the world. So it's pretty exciting. And I think, the streaming services, particularly Netflix, are, you know, have been at the forefront of that, of sort of globalizing, you know, and releasing things at the same time so that everybody gets to see it. So
absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
Aaron Ashmore is a storyteller. That's what you do. Is it safe to say that that's I'm not lying? Like that's what you do.
No, it's true. Yeah.
And Jessica Camacho is also a storyteller. Plays Doug Brazel.
Yes.
Is it safe to say your favorite thing, Aaron, about storytelling is basically transforming and diving into these worlds of Locke and Key, Skymet? Is that the best part about it?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the intellectual aspects of it too. I mean, I like being on set and doing it, but I love thinking about the characters and reading the scripts and sort of picking them apart. To just try and make the characters the most interesting and grounded and realistic as possible. You know, so I consider myself a storyteller. My highest, most respect goes to writers. Like I am not a writer. Yeah. I don't have that skill set. I never, you know, I'm like anything, if you practice it, you could get better at it, but I just have, it just take a lot of time. And I feel like I'm, you know, that's not where my head is at, but that's, you know, storytelling to me starts at the writing, and that's where most of my respect is. I love acting, I love the rest of it, but a good script, digging into that, and you know, because it's all there. If it's on the page, you know, it's sort of an old adage, but if it's on the page, you know, something great's going to come of it. If it's not on the page, it's really hard to make work. So you know, all the great ideas that you get and all the fun you get in picking it apart, it starts with the script. So, you know,
and to add to that, it's interesting because we're going back to season 1 now of Locke and Key, because this question kind of has to do with the start of it. I mean, working on a show that's like based on like adapted like a graphic novel, right? I feel like that's such an interesting thing for an actor and a storyteller, because there's like that like familiarity because people know the graphic novel, but then like they don't know the live action show on Netflix, right? So there's like familiarity, but at the same time, it's like a whole new world. Do you know what I mean by that a little bit?
Absolutely. And you know, I think when you're changing mediums like that, you have to adapt it a little bit. You have to change it. You know, I don't think like the tone and all of that of the graphic novel would have worked perfectly as a show. And I think that's the beauty of being able to sort of adapt those things. I also think I was a fan of the graphic novel. Like I'd read all of them that were out up until the point that the show started. And having read that and knowing the world and knowing the character, when I went into audition for it, I think I definitely had a leg up because I already had all these ideas and I knew the world so well. And even though the character's not really featured in the comic all that much, although he is there.
Yeah.
I knew enough of his backstory and really where this guy was coming from, so that the one scene or whatever, the 2 scenes that I auditioned with, I think it was 1 scene, I knew what I needed to sort of put in there.
Wow.
As far as like who this guy is. And I was like, I hope that they're not going to take him way different from this, but you know, you kind of have to make a decision when you're auditioning and be like, what am I going to do? Like what choice am I going to make? So I sort of chose to stick pretty close to the character.
I feel like that's so much fun though, like with Locke and Key, like the show where there are characters that are in the graphic novels and some that aren't at all and some that are like mentioned like one time. Like I think that's the best part about it too. You get like more creativity with like a live action show, I feel like.
Well, for sure. And you know, I think there's so many. Well, I don't know the graphic novel business or the writing business, but there's so many more people, I think, involved in making a TV show. Like even as far as like writers, it's like, you know, Joe Hill was the writer for the graphic novel. On this, you have a whole team of writers with all sorts of ideas that are sort of pitching ideas and coming with different takes and slants. So it's really interesting. It's a much more collaborative process, I think, making a TV show or a movie or whatever than writing a book. But it's both really interesting processes.
Absolutely. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was so great chatting with you about season 3 of Locke and Key.
You too, my man. Thanks for your interest.
There's an Instagram account that people could follow you at, right?
It's Aaron, AARON _Ashmore. So very simple.
And there's season 3 of a show called Locke and Key that people can watch now on Netflix too, right?
They should definitely get into that. They should definitely fire it up and binge it all within at least 2 days. I'll give you 2 days, no more than that. Just
absolutely. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Aaron Ashmore with Duncan and Locke and Key season 3 available now on Netflix. And Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.